This 100th episode is for Tuesday, April 26, 2016. Welcome, Crater fans. I'm your host, Josh Owens, along with my plethora of co-hosts. We've got Abhi Iyer with us. He's going to be...
Hey, guys. How you doing? Coming to you live from San Francisco.
Nice. And we got Ben Strahan with us.
Yes, totally. So we just showed up at the front doors of MDG, Abhi and I. We just walked in and we just took a meeting room.
Yeah,
we didn't even say hi to anyone yet. We just totally crashed this place. So
nice. I love it. And so then we also have the OG co-host Rye Walker with us. Welcome, Rye.
The original.
Cincinnati. No.
Nice.
Show 100.
I can't believe it's show 100.
Yeah, so I went out and did 100 push-ups and then ran 100 miles, all in honor of this. No,
dude, I drank 100 beers, so I'm ready to go.
Nice. That's how I usually do it.
I think I sent 100 emails today. So.
You drove, or you came over 100 miles.
I slept 100 minutes.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
We all did 100.
On the plane?
Hundreds.
On the plane. Yes. Snoring away.
Nice. So this week is going to be a little bit different. I thought we'd get all the co-hosts together. We're missing Dean. I didn't even think about Dean.
Dang it.
Oops.
Wow.
Whoops. Sorry, Dean. I don't know if he listens anymore. He's off in Node land. Yeah, and so I thought we'd all get together and kind of talk about the state of Meteor. This started as Meteor podcast, and I think we've kind of morphed and started covering more news. Definitely a lot more React news, but I don't know. I thought it would be really kind of interesting to stop and reflect where the Meteor community's at and where it's headed and what that's going to be like in the future. So
yeah, and then I want to hear about the future of this podcast.
Yeah.
Now that Abhi's on board, I want to know what you guys have been cooking, what to expect.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be much different.
Oh, trust me, it's going to be different with this guy.
Nice. Yeah, maybe that's our first question. We got some questions on the YouTube channel. Where's Ben going? Why is he leaving? What's going on?
Oh, yeah.
Dun.
Yes. This is news for Rye.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, so doing all this stuff with Josh is amazing and being part of the community. And so I totally found what I wanted my career to be, which was a developer advocate or evangelist. I got all those check boxes, but I've never had the opportunity to put all those skills together into one. Mm-hmm. So I'll be going to a company called connect.io May 20th. But May 20th, they're rebranding their company.
Oh.
So and it's kind of top secret right now, so I can't say.
So
but it will be revealed at Make Fair out in San Francisco. My first day on the job, I'm actually flying out to San Francisco. I'm going to be
back here.
I'll be back here on the first day.
Have you ever been to that, Ben?
I haven't, no.
It's a lot of fun, man. I went one year. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, Maker Field?
Yeah, Maker Fair.
Fest?
Yeah, something like that.
That's going to be cool first day.
Yes, I'm totally murdering right now. This is my job to know these things. I'm that meeting or that conference. But no, I read about it. It's super exciting. So I'm stoked to do it. And I'm stoked to kind of step into the next season of my career. So super excited and very happy and to be a part of this and everything that Josh was doing and everything. And I'm handing it over to one of my very good friends, Abhi.
Yeah. So is there JavaScript there? Is there Meteor there?
So it's interesting. So it's the Maker community. They have a couple boards that they made, and primarily they are a cell service. So you can get a Wi-Fi board or a Bluetooth board to stay connected. But how can you connect to the internet through cellular without having a phone? So they got a board, and they have a whole worldwide network that they sell. So they're really just a cell provider, and they built the board on the side. So It's exciting. For Meteor, there's JavaScript, but then I'll also be working with all other languages. They have different SDKs and everything. So I'm pretty stoked to like get all those different experiences.
Yeah. It's going to be a completely new community too.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a community that doesn't cry on forum posts and stuff, right?
It's interesting because
no podcasts have to be created because of this, this community that you're joining, right?
I like that you think that.
Dude, like there might be someone that walks by, man.
We're behind the enemy lines.
Yes,
right
we are. We are in the belly of the beast.
I love that we fostered this culture of like enemy lines. Oh,
For the listeners, I'm shaking my head right now. So.
Ryan's like, I don't want to be part of this.
I mean, it is actually kind of cool that you guys ended up, like, we delayed the taping a couple of days just because you guys were going to be at MDG together. So that is kind of cool.
It's the first time like we met each other like in person. So
Wow.
Actually, that was another question I had is like, let's go around and what's your favorite memory of doing the podcast in some way? And I'll start. And I'm going to say, I don't know if we ever published it, but Ryan and I did one in the car on the way to the airport. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we like bought the gear at like Guitar Center.
Yeah.
On the way, back to the airport.
Yeah. Well, we bought it because we thought we'd interview like Matt or someone at MDG, but then like they were too busy, and then we had to get a podcast out, so we like got all the show notes together and like ordered an Uber and set up in the car and recorded it in the car.
That's awesome.
And I remember I left my iPhone in the car during that trip too. It's like
in an Uber. That was cool.
It's not a good thing.
Oh, wow.
Nice. So what? Besides that, what's your favorite?
My favorite.
Or his favorite.
You talking me? Me? Him? You? Me? No.
We'll go with Rye.
All right. I don't know. I'm trying to remember what our first one was. Do you remember the very first podcast where we did that or anything?
It would have been at Centrifuge, I would think.
Yeah, I can't even remember the first one, but I should go back and listen to that. But that's probably my favorite one because I like, I love the idea of starting something and like nobody listened to it and I can't even remember it, but it's like that important first step, right? Of just deciding to do something and
it probably sounded terrible.
Yeah, it's probably horrible. It's like, you should probably get a snippet of it and maybe play it in this. I know you don't do any editing, but
we'll make Chris do it. Go find it, Chris, and put a little intro snippet or something in.
See how bad it was. Find the worst moment from that podcast. That's my favorite moment.
Nice.
That's awesome.
What's yours?
My favorite moment is probably when I got really drunk at Space Camp.
I think that's my second, maybe.
It was like 10 minutes after meeting Josh, and then we had to go on to film this show.
Yeah, you guys were way late, like getting there with the van.
Yeah, I don't.
It took you like all day to get there.
We had a bunch of like side things that we had to do, but anyway. So like Carl Danninger from OK Grow was giving me scotch for the first time ever in my life. And it just like hit me when I'm sitting there, and then before I know it, like I'm being loud, I'm being obnoxious. I have Chet Korkos sitting in my lap, staring into my eyes, and then like right in front of me, I finally make eye contact with Paul Dowman, and he's like really straight faced, and I'm like, oh, and I sober up that second. I'm like, oh man,
you're fired. That's funny.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So what's your favorite moment now?
I have so many favorite moments, because I've been on the show for like 4 times.
You're a listener too. You could say your favorite.
Yeah, my favorite creator moment. I've actually listened to this show with every single podcast, or every single host on the show right now. Like when Rye was doing it consistently, I watched every episode. And then Ben started doing it. And then for some reason, Dean started doing it for a little bit. And there was like a little switch off. And then just Ben for a long time. And then now I started doing it. My favorite one, or my favorite moment of the Creator Podcast was when someone commented on YouTube saying that Ben sucks. And And then Ben took super offense to that. So like the next show that we did, the Ben and Avi version of the YouTube show, he called him out, which I thought was great.
Yeah, that's funny.
He edited it too. You didn't see it.
Oh yeah, the comment got edited like 4 times.
Like put in like, I don't know what he was doing, but he was like saying, "I wish Ben gets really sick so he can't do transmission anymore," and all that stuff. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh my gosh. I still remember that. He's like, "I can't stand Ben's pessimistic view on everything."
Wow.
The bright side of that is that guy liked me, so that was cool. You know, like.
Well, burner account. That's your burner account on YouTube.
I think there was a joke that it was actually Josh, right? But,
yeah. That was Josh's.
It was Josh's other account, but just to like mess with you, you know.
Yeah. He's like, look, Ben, the door's open. You should go out. Get out of here.
No, but it was funny because you did like troll the YouTube community. I think the episode before, it was terrible. Comments are terrible. Nobody leaves good comments there. And then like the next episode, like you're getting nasty comments on YouTube.
This show has grown a lot, though. It's definitely like, I think like back when we were just covering like meteor topics, like it was hard to it was hard to stay connected to the show every week because not every week there was like amazing meteor topics talking about it. So they used to be like really like nice hitting like good shows, and then some weeks were a little off, and then ever since we made it like open to all types of JavaScript news, like I will say like every week has at least, you know, half the show is super interesting, and then sometimes maybe we like, you know, sometimes we cover some small stuff like, you know, putting stuff on like those like small tutorials and stuff. But
like that Redux tutorial stuff?
Yeah, like all those Redux tutorials and like Blaze tutorials.
Those are awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
That's killer, man.
So I think the show is like grown in breadth, and like I think it's only going to get bigger in terms of like what we talk about. Especially since we have a person who's going to go into like the makers community. Maybe we can learn some things there and like, you know, bring that into the show.
He's going to be trolling us with all his like blog posts and stuff on Crater.
I'm just going to make new accounts and just troll him back, so it's going to be okay.
So there was like a big Redux. I remember that Redux episode. I remember I was sitting in the window seat of an airplane, looking out, listening to that podcast. That was a good one.
Thanks.
The first one. Redux. What's this Redux? Oh no.
Yeah, more stuff.
More stuff to learn.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting, like how much, like even just this week, there's been a lot more React news. I think the Meteor news on Crater, which has been an interesting shift.
Yeah.
You know, that brings up an interesting question. Like I've kind of shifted. I was forced to work on Blaze this week, and it was terrible.
Oh man!
End of last week, it was really terrible. And like it was actually Blaze performance problems. So it was like,
oh, even worse.
Yeah. But you know, I got done with that, and I'm like, yeah. I told the client they need to switch to React. Like, how are you guys feeling about React now? Like, are you guys kind of full time into React, or like, I guess where's that at? We'll start with Ben.
I'm interested with.
We'll start with Avi, I guess.
Yeah. So before 1.2, my app or our app at WorkPop was 100% Blaze. Like it was 100% Blaze with a lot of abstractions to get around Blaze's like core issues. Right? We wrote helper libraries that were so specific to WorkPop that eased certain situations that we actually had more technical debt. When we decided to go to React, we had so much more technical debt because of all these abstractions that we built, you know. And we built such a tight-knit system that people knew those abstractions, and we literally had to burn them on fire and get rid of them, right? So from there, we decided to go to React, but we couldn't go 100% on day one. So what we did is we used the React template helper, which allows you to put React components in Blaze. And we essentially started at the smallest of components. So like, let's say we're in a huge Blaze template and we went to the button. We changed the button to React. And then we changed the container into React. And then we changed the navbar. And we went from the root up. And that really helped us get into React. I'll say right now, my 100% focus is in React. some of my teammates still have to use Blaze in our legacy products, but I've been put on the team of like, how are we going to push our front end forward given React and the tools, and then people have to maintain the old stuff. Sucks for them. Great for me though. And it's been 100% buy-in by my company, because every time we have a bug with Blaze, old legacy Blaze, we don't even really think about how we're going to solve the Blaze problem, because it'll probably take us less time to just write it in React and have that faith that it's going to be performant. And we haven't been wrong yet. We haven't had like crazy table renders and all that stuff that usually sucks in Blaze. So on my side, it's been pretty great since 1.2. Yeah, no complaints about React, and like 100% buy-in for sure on my team. So
cool. Yeah. Yeah, with me, it's just I kind of like had projects that were like a small team that were like left in Blaze, so I had to like work in that for a while. I built a huge mobile platform that was like built in Meteoric, which is like a wonderful thing to maintain. Luckily, Nick made me a contributor to that library, so if anything comes up, I can.
Right?
I kind of like lived in Blaze for a little too long and kind of did side things with React or whatnot, but made a shift about 3 months ago, I'd say. All new projects were 100% React. It was like no question about it. And I think going forward now, from this point forward, we're going to start using React Router as the default too. Like we've been playing with Flow Router, React Router, or whatnot, but I think we're going to be going more and more in the React world. And then especially with like Apollo coming out and GraphQL, it's just, we should, now our attitude is like we buy in early at OKGrow and we go all that direction, because it's like clear as day now where everything's going.
If you buy in early, your content is the earliest of content, which is kind of good and bad, right? Like as you know, as OK grows like a consultancy, like they want to have mind share on the things they're working on. Like Apollo is very new, and like they start blogging about that. You guys could be like the first movers, right? Mm-hmm. And then maybe more people will come to you for like those projects.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because you got to feel like you're picking the right one. So
exactly.
I'm kind of curious though, like because like Rye's opinion as a CEO now, like what's your opinion on Blaze versus React? And like,
yeah, you're the guy spending the money, right?
Yeah, well,
we're all like React, upgrade React, and you're like, how many hours is that?
No, see, I remember we were talking about this a couple of months ago, Josh. I don't remember if it was on the podcast or if we were just having lunch, but where I was like, I don't know, like, but at the end, of course, we're using React, and we used Meteor in 2013. We're these crazy people that will be super early adopters. That's why we did all this in the first place. So it was never, I did have a debate for a moment, like just because it's new, but like. The other thing we're doing inside of Astronomer is we're using ES7, so we had a meeting in LA last week. We were showing off our code to some smart dudes in LA, and we're like, what's that? Like, it's like a little decorator thing going on in ES7, and he's like, oh, safety's off, huh? So we have this Cincinnati company that's just right on the freaking edge of everything. So of course we're going to use React, and of course we'll use Apollo. We'll use everything that's edge. We're that's just in our blood. I actually think from a startup standpoint, it's so important to be that way because it really helps with recruiting. Like I can get any smart dev, I can tell them, hey, here's a React project. Like there's a high chance they'll jump in. Or if I say it's ES7, so yeah, I think it's
or
really
Polymer.
Yeah, Polymer. Polymer is awesome.
That was a big bet.
Was that the last presentation that you gave out here?
Could have been, and Polymer was cool. It was a good idea, but yeah. So you're not always right, but it's to me it was closer to React than it was to Blaze. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I have a question on that. Like, so my company, we did the same thing. We were a lot younger, and we picked the edge. And that is good advice for a young company.
Yeah.
Let's say you get 30 engineers, and 10 of them don't care about edge. They're like, I've been building Java services for 20 years. Why do I need to Like this could be way easier if I just did not use this new technology. Right?
Yeah, and I think it's tricky. Like if you hire a CTO in that is older, or there's a startup in town that hired a Java dude after they had been using some more cutting edge stuff, and he started tearing everything down and turning it into Java. And they ended up, that didn't work out after a few years, and they got rid of them, and now they're back. So I think it's tough. Like leadership has to really support that. So from the CEO down, like Greg's our CTO, he's right with me on this. So we're super aligned. It's really important. Yeah. So I would say, despite it all, like I don't really want curmudgeons in our company that say, that the latest stuff isn't the best stuff. It's just fun. It's just fun to be on the edge. It's fun to be able to have that learning mode happening all the time. And I don't really think it's that much riskier, you can always roll back to the previous version of Meteor as you're upgrading it. And, I just worked for a lot of companies where like we were on Rails 2, or customers back in the day, Rails 2, but Rails was on Rails 4. And it's just like a really shitty world to live in, So I'd say keep it on the edge. It's the new normal in my book.
Yeah, hallelujah. Yeah. I think go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, I definitely think like being on the edge can be good. And like, I tend to just throw myself into it too. Like I recently, I guess back in February, did an updated class, and we gave it on like an RC version of 1.3. It wasn't even fully baked. I gave the class again in April, and like quite a bit had actually changed from February to April even. When
RC might not be what you want to use, for everything, but yeah.
Yeah.
I generally skip RCs for the most part.
Yeah, but I wanted to force myself to get into React and get into Meteor 1.3 and use imports. I think it's definitely much improved as from like a developer perspective. Opening a file that's in a 1.3 syntax style, for the most part, reads a lot better to me than the old way. So
yeah, it reads like how everybody else is writing code for the last couple of years while we weren't, right? So it's nice to see some familiarity in the new Meteor code, and then old, other NPM modules. It seems relatively the same, right? So that's good.
Yeah, and of course we were using CoffeeScript through this whole thing too. So, I never even knew what normal code looked like. I remember showing in one of the Meteor Vanguard things some of the code I had written for Assistant.io, and I had these nested things going on because of like weird problems I was having with Google's API, and he just was like, "What am I looking at? Like this is just the most bizarre code I've ever seen in my life."
That's a good way to start something.
It's like, fuck you now.
It's funny. Like I feel that way. I have a client, it's an older client, and anytime I have to get in that project, like it's all on CoffeeScript. And I had actually already switched to JavaScript at that point, but the designer that I had hired did everything in CoffeeScript, and I was like, we'll just go with it. Like I know it. But now the in-house team is starting to maintain it, and they're like, we don't know CoffeeScript. I feel so terrible for that, but I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to use some like converter, and then their code is going to look really ugly because they went from like CoffeeScript to JavaScript. Oh.
Yep. Funny.
All right, what's the next question, Josh? Oh, no, what are you doing? You're obviously React though.
Yeah. 100% buy-in on React myself. I think it's definitely, it's a huge community, right? Like Ben and I were looking at the stats, I think, and the download stats for like 1 day of React Router equals like all-time downloads of Flow Router ever.
Yeah.
No, it was Iron Router's number. It was Iron Router's number. Yes, 1 day of React Router is. It was like a year of Iron Router.
Maybe that was it. I thought it was a day of Flow Router, but it was already like way past Iron Router too.
Yeah, it's just like it was like, and I think that's where after that day, I remember that being like a turning point where I was like, okay, I kind of like pushed it where everything needs to be like the React stack. If you got that many developers contributing and being part of that community, and like we're like 1/100th of that, like it's a no-brainer. If we're able to integrate their library, then go for it.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing too, pushing the envelope and really like telling the community, like, hey, this is how you should handle state. You know, it's out there. Tons of people are using it. So like, why aren't you? And then giving like practical examples, tutorials.
Yeah, I think the thing that has plagued us as Meteor developers is the fact that we've been using systems that were built. We were using systems that were built like, to me, it seems like they were built because they were just for the fun of it. You know, like a good way to describe this is like 2 weeks ago, I had to build a drop-down component, and it was on the weekend, and I was just like chilling, and I was like, oh yeah, I could go to NPM, or I could just build this myself because I'm so smart and I'm so great. So I built it myself, right?
Wait! I want to stop there. So in the head of hobby, this is hobby land here.
This is a metaphor, okay? We're gonna go. So I'm so great and I'm so smart, and I'm gonna build this drop-down component, and I launched it on Tuesday for a release day, and it doesn't work on mobile. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about mobile, you know, like, So what I do, I said like, oh, you know what? I'll fix it in 2 weeks. You know, I don't have time to fix it today. I'll fix it when I want. And my coworker was like, oh, I can fix it for you. I have a PR. I was like, nah, man, I gotta do it. I gotta fix this drop-down component myself. I don't want your PR. I'm sorry. So. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so back to the story.
I think you should have like a film crew inside WordProp's offices. I want to see this reality show.
This is an MDG parable right here, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I was describing is an MDG parable, and like that's the world we lived in before 1.3. We were living with technology that was not considered like from the other sources, right?
I'm gonna love this show from now.
Well, you know. Here's the thing I'll say about that. Like maybe from the outside, it might look like not invented here syndrome or ivory tower syndrome or something along those lines. But I will say you have to look back and think, like when I started with 06, Meteor, that was like back in 2013. Like there weren't NPM libraries that were loaded into the browser back then, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, so, I mean, they were inventing a lot of infrastructure that didn't exist, and now like that infrastructure exists. Sadly, like maybe the downside is that they didn't do a good job of figuring out how to share it and like make it community standards. So now we're instead adopting other community standards. But I think it takes a lot of time and effort to really put that stuff out there and get it adopted in the first place, you know?
Yeah, I think that was a big thing. And now like something better is coming along, and so they're shifting. So I think it's just all part of growing up.
Yeah, it's the growing pains for sure.
Yeah.
I'd also say they tested like, hey, maybe Blaze should be standalone. They you know, it wasn't a huge test, but it wasn't a big success. So
yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. Like Blaze wasn't ready to stand alone.
Well, you know, and I'll say, like, I'll ding them on this one, right? Because they did try to launch Blaze as a standalone thing, but I think they did a really poor job. And I talked about this in a blog post I wrote about, like, why MDG needs Facebook and React. And, like, you can go see, like, there's just tumbleweeds in the Google group that they created.
Yeah.
Where they wanted to, like, support Blaze. And they really didn't like have anyone show up there to support it. And they didn't really, like, if you go look, that repo is like not updated in a long time. Like it's just, I think a lot of people had a lot of questions that went unanswered. And once that happens, like, you know, the biggest thing to me that'll kill a project is bad documentation.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what happened when they try to spin Blaze out on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, you know, I would just say like a failed experiment in a startup is a success, you know.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
They had this hunch. Maybe they didn't really feel the pool they wanted. Now, again, it'd be nice if you clean up your mess after that, but cleaning up your mess takes more time than it is just to leave it there. And, you know, we've got a ton of messes at Astronomer that we've left on the internet. I wish we had time to clean them all up, but, you know, even in the differential GitHub repo, we still have some messes left over there, I'm sure, you know, Josh?
Yes.
Repos that need to be gone, but it's just more work. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I just thought, you know, it's just like, to me, React just came in like a freight train from the side and just smashed that. And it's good. I mean, it's good. It's good that we have a like across technology. I mean, I think like the .NET people are using it and the Rails people are using it. Like everyone's using this, so it's great because it's standardizing that front end.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to like once places like Netflix and Facebook get behind it, it feels much bigger too. So in other people's minds anyway, like that's good for adoption
for sure.
So I'm curious now that we talked a little bit about the past of MDG and Meteor. What do you guys think about the future? Now that we kind of know what's coming.
It's a good point.
Oh wow, Ryan.
Josh,
I first.
Yeah, that's a big sigh.
No, I wanted to say I want to give props to MDG. Like, there's like probably about 5 companies that are pretty influential in how we approach Astronomer, and one of them is Meteor, MDG. I just love the approach of how they launched the complete openness. I love that they launched it without the user packages back in the day, which they took a lot of flack from that, but they also got a lot of feedback. I think there's a lot for us to learn from MDG and how they've, I know they tried to do Galaxy once and it kind of petered out, so this Galaxy was actually Galaxy 2. So if you think about that, if the sequencing could have been different, but again, welcome to the world of startups. I mean, I think that it's the Apollo stuff seems really smart and good. I haven't really figured out exactly what that means. Because I haven't played with it yet because it's just not ready for me yet. But I think that I have a lot of. I mean, they're growing up. Obviously, they're dealing with bigger companies, and I know that there's a lot of. I just go back to how we're doing it. Like I've had so many different versions of our pricing page, and I've confused so many people on how to do price. What's Astronomer? Is it free? Is it blah? I'm like, whatever. It's everything.
Send me a check.
I have a lot of compassion for what they've done because I'm basically trying to do the same thing and I'm doing it worse, to be honest. But again, they have a lot more money than me, so they it's hard to do things all straight A's when you're working with limited resources.
Startups are hard. A lot of things to juggle.
Yep. Yeah. So that's my take. I just think whatever they do is going to be great. That's my attitude on it. It's like they're doing the best they can. They've done pretty good so far.
That's a good attitude for sure.
Counterpoint.
There's always there's definitely dust bunnies on the floor and all that stuff. Like it's not perfect, but we were all still building apps in it. Yeah. And with us being as astute as we are, and we still pick it as our platform, that's pretty darn awesome.
Yeah, for me is Meteor has evolved than just an application development framework. When I first used Meteor and Blaze, it seemed like there was this whole concept of the Meteor way. And I remember having to tell people, that's not the Meteor way, And I realized the Meteor way is a myth, It's just the Meteor way is not anything. It's just how do you build really performant, efficient, reactive applications. And that's not the Meteor way, that's just the way. Cool. And how is Meteor helping us now, right? Well, since 1.3 in the future, I think Meteor is just the best cure for JavaScript fatigue. If you look at JavaScript today, you have to know so many different toolings. You have to know Babel. You have to know that already covers it. You have to know Webpack or Browserify. You have to pick a front-end framework. You have to pick a back-end Express or Koa or whatever you like, And then you have to do some type of DevOps, right? Put on DigitalOcean. This is so much fatigue, and especially for someone who is just getting into this, or it's kind of a mid-level, where they probably to have their own app, they need to know people or pay a lot of money to accomplish this. I think Meteor is the perfect cure for JavaScript fatigue because it ships a build tool, though it's pretty slow. That's a negative. Though slow, it will handle whatever you wanted to get out of Grunt. It'll handle the Webpack situation for you, the Babel situation. You can ship your code to Galaxy, so the hosting situation is covered. You got first-class support for, React, Blaze, and Angular. You have the whole package there, and I don't see anybody in the Meteor community getting fatigued by anything those React developers were complaining about 2 months ago. Because with us, you say npm install React, and then you type Meteor, and everything is done. Like you can start building something right away.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Like, I did a code review for a client the other day, and they're on Meteor 1.2, and they used an npm version of React, and they had like a custom browserify set up and all that kind of stuff. And it was actually a little more painful than I wanted it to be. And I told the customer that they should probably switch to 1.3 and use the stuff that's in Meteor now, because it works a lot better.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit sad. Like I know that we were all like tired and frustrated and we wanted to see 1.3 ship, but at the same time, like I feel like 1.3 wasn't quite ready when they shipped it. There were some pieces missing, which they've been adding with smaller releases, which has also been interesting. Had a little bit of...
That's interesting. Because like I can't imagine 1.3 being any bigger. Like that was a big release.
It's pretty big.
It was, but I mean, like you're in this weird hybrid state of waiting on Meteor itself to be on npm. Like there's no good way for me to create an npm package in Meteor or on npm that like requires pieces of Meteor.
Yeah.
Like there's some hacks you can do that make it work, but and we'll get there. I think we'll get there. And that to me, that'll be the huge piece, right? Because once all those little packages are on there, right? If we think about, like, for me, I think about what Rails look like, and people could go out and build a Sinatra app and still pull in Active Record. I think that's going to become really, really interesting when we can draw in even more developers to work on parts of Meteor, and they're not necessarily using the whole thing, you know? Yeah. Like that, to me, that'll bring a lot of growth.
I was going to say, I wonder if part of the challenge is, like, I remember, again, I'm going to go back to my Rails days, and DHH was there, and he was, like, so opinionated, and he helped drive, like, I feel like one of the things that would be really helpful in Meteor, 1.3, 1.4, whatever, going forward, are deprecations against the Meteor way. You know, like, just really rich deprecations. Like, just, like, tell me if I'm using Iron Router, just say you shouldn't be using Iron Router, you know? It's just a fact, right? You can ignore that somehow, fine, but, I mean, DHH always did a really good job of like saying, you know, F this, F that, telling us what to do. And does that person exist at MDG to the extent it needs to? I mean, there's definitely a few guys that are somewhat opinionated, but just not quite as strong of a leader, you know?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that because like we haven't seen any deprecation. Like 1.3 shipped and like we now have to shove everything into the imports folder. There's no way for us to get rid of eager loading and move to a full import setup. So like that to me is like we should have at least a deprecation to say like, oh, hey, maybe it's harder to write because we're relying on globals, but I bet there's a way to detect that you're relying on a global and not importing what you need.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an interesting standpoint. So like Rails was open source and they didn't have a business based on Rails. You know, Rails was an outshoot of a business. Yeah. And so Meteor is a different business plan altogether where they're building something and that's what their job is. And now they're going to like have a business off of that.
So I think the problem is that two businesses are too far misaligned. Like building a DevOps company to do hosting is too far away from building a framework like Meteor, in my opinion.
I think it's closer than Basecamp was, though. Basecamp was a work management thing, and you had this web framework. And here you have a web hosting company with a framework. Those seem to me like they should be more compatible. Maybe they're too close, you know?
Yeah, well, I feel like, you know, like the 37 Signals guys could, if you look, the top 3 contributors all worked at 37 Signals, you know? And so they would do some work and then like extract that idea out to Rails. Whereas I think like a lot of the work that's happening is happening in Docker or EC2 or like it's not happening necessarily. Like there's a very little piece of Galaxy that's built in Meteor and that's it.
Yeah. But I mean, there should definitely be some external people on the Meteor core team for the open source project. That's just like to me a no-brainer. It's like, they haven't done that yet, right? That's still the case. That it's still all inside people.
It's on their roadmap.
It's on their roadmap. Well, that one seems like an easy one to get off your roadmap. You know? So I don't know. Yeah, it's the other thing that happened too. Like, again, I know from the VC standpoint, like they started launching this stuff like at Series B, and that's when you get these really serious business VCs involved. And revenue is important, and getting along with and going after big markets are important. So again, I kind of wish like that Galaxy would have launched back in the earlier days, because it would have been structured differently. I think it could have changed a lot of things. And maybe the whole Blaze, React thing could have been a different story too. But again, like startups, you just deal with what happens. And I think that again, 1.3 was a bit of a still a reaction to the React train slamming into the side of them. And I think I know it seems like it was slow motion response from the inside of the Meteor community, but from the outside, I think they really did a good job of dealing with that side swipe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you were a brand new developer coming in, or I would say no, like you're the same developer that you are, but you didn't use Meteor in the past. You have a new project coming. You're interested in Meteor. You're also interested in other things as well. Would you check Meteor out? Or is all this drama that we're talking about too much?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would just say like, and I'm be honest, like as soon as things get complicated, I'm looking for the next framework that's simple again. And I think that's you guys have had some conversations on the podcast around that, and I think that certainly Meteor is at a risk for something simpler to pop through that's opinionated again and small, and you could write just one big long document. You could read it and like be excited to start working on it. I don't know if that's the current state of Meteor. Seems like there's some complication there,
Yeah, I think I would definitely pick Meteor again. So I'm interested in this new job that I'm going to, that I'm going to be experiencing more languages and more frameworks or whatnot. And I have this hypothesis that Meteor is still going to stay my preferred stack. And if that comes true, then I would have to say maybe the past was painful or whatnot, but if I'm still recommending Meteor to people in the future, then I think MDG did their job. Did they do it perfectly? No. But no one does anything perfect, especially when they're creating something brand new.
I
think they're good. They got staying power. They got a lot of good stuff. I'm excited for them. I'm kind of sad a little bit that I'm not going to be so much involved in the Meteor world. And that says something right there.
Yeah. That
I'm going to miss it because it's awesomeness.
Yeah, I think any sizable community comes with drama, right? I think there's even a Ruby or a Rails drama Twitter account that tracks days since last drama.
Dude.
Do it. No.
We are one-minded.
Wow.
That stole our idea.
that guy totally trolled us today. He laid on his horn the entire time. I think anytime that you have people that are passionate about the technology, the thing that I do admire about Meteor right now is that a lot of the drama does center around development or technical choices, or there's not as much around these people are being terrible or somehow hurting our community. We haven't had a whole lot of that, which I think is really, really great. I've run a couple conferences. We really haven't had too many problems come out of those. So I'm very, very happy with that. Personally, I think the Meteor community has been great in that way. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to hear Abhi's answer to this question, because you've played with Feathers now too.
Yeah, I play with Feathers, and let's be straight up then. Before 1.3, I would recommend Meteor to junior people who want to get into it. They want to learn web development. Sure. I think 1.3 and beyond, I would not recommend to a new person. And I wouldn't recommend Feathers to a new person either. Nor because these are for professional developers. I think these frameworks are going to become for professional enterprise customers, or people like us who our living wage is based on doing this stuff every day. And I don't think it's going to be good for people who just want to work on a Saturday afternoon at a coffee shop for an hour. And, contrary to what Rai said, I don't think it's going to be one of those things where you read one document and you're ready to go. Because I think as a professional developer, there's just so many facets that you need to know. And I think a framework that can help you plug and play all those things requires a little bit of experience.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like originally I read some of like Meteor's early pitch decks, for example. I'm supposed to see this, but they didn't give it to me, but I got it from some other source. And they were targeting like junior intermediate developers with this framework. It was awesome. Like, and I realized like that's why it was so easy to learn in the beginning, because like they were aiming at us at the junior level. And I remember I did a little talk about how this is the new PHP, because it's like it's easy as PHP, but it's not as shitty as PHP, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. But I agree. Like it's now become a pro tool, and I'm going to always default to, if I can work in a tool that's designed for amateurs, it means it's easier, and if it can get the job done, and Meteor did at the time, it built the right apps and it felt like it was easy to use. And so I'm always seeking that. Maybe Meteor can get back to that after this, the Blaze React thing calms down. But like when I look at Apollo, like the other thing I loved about Meteor was it was just Mongo, and that was it, and now that's going to go away, and that to me is like it's a sad thing from a simplicity standpoint, but it has to be done from a professional tool standpoint,
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as your team gets more mature, they want more control on every piece of the pie. They want control about everything. And Meteor months ago did not have that control. Even with the new build plugin stuff that came out in 1.2, that's more control. And it's still in a Meteor way, but I've written a couple of build plugins for my company. So like little steps like that help me realize that this is going to be a professional tool. I don't know if, like, we already see beginners are really confused with the 1.3 tutorial. They don't know how to like import, export stuff, they're like confused about collection declarations. Like I've seen a bunch of questions about it, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Then my question becomes, is that because the Meteor 1.3 guide is such a far departure from how other tutorials are telling people how to build stuff? Like if you go get Discover Meteor, like I literally ran across a post the other day in Reddit where a guy's like, I want Discover Meteor, but for Meteor 1.3. And it's like, that doesn't exist at all. And there's no nothing.
Yeah, Sasha.
You know what?
It doesn't exist.
You know what? Because Sasha and Tom, their tone and the way they're approaching the content is different than the Meteor guide. I feel like the Meteor guide has like some assumption that you already banged your head on the keyboard for hours before you came here to get help, But with Sasha like assumes you know nothing, doesn't care if you know anything, and will still do the same like Sasha tone where it's like really professional, really like positive, and kind of fun, And he's a great designer, so it's really easy on the eyes too.
And also, like that was his life. So, like when Meteor came along, like he was moving from front end, and then Meteor came along. He's like, "Wow, look what's available to me!" And then he became a full stack developer through Meteor. So he was actually like, Discover Meteor was like his story, pretty much. And then Tom came in to help him because there's so many rough edges.
I think the same thing with Rails. Again, I'm going back to that. Like there was this Agile Web Development with Ruby on Rails book. I remember it was so awesome, and I read that thing 10 times. But now it's the Rails guide, and if you go to the Rails guide, it's just big and again, if I'm learning from scratch, I never tell anyone to go to Rails.
All that stuff is open source, though. Like
I know, but
we're the more experienced ones. If we got an issue with Meteor guide, we should we should do it.
Yeah,
because also we are. We're trolling them saying like, oh, in the past you guys controlled everything. Why didn't you give up more stuff? And now they're giving up more stuff. And we're like, oh, this guide that you put out is bad. You got to do it. It's like,
I would agree. Like maybe that does fall on us on some level, but at the same time, like they didn't actually give up as much control as you think. Like I tried to do a debugging guide and they gave me some commit bits, but at the end of the day, like I realized I was really just copying a blog post over from my blog to their guide. So I don't know, like, but that's the only thing that will really let anyone work on.
I agree with Josh. Like, everyone here has provided some kind of content to the Meteor community that doesn't need to be in the guide because all of us have our own voice, we have our own opinions, and people listen to us because of that, right? If all of our opinions just went into the guide, no one would know the originality that we bring to the table for the type of content that we write, and like I think I don't want any of my stuff in the guide because that's like obby content. Like if you want to learn Meteor the way that I would like to teach it to you, and I think the guide is more like this is a very general way of understanding it, and maybe that doesn't help beginners. Maybe that's maybe beginners need a Discover Meteor like guide, and professional people just need like some like table reference where they can just like pull it out. Like, okay, cool.
I just think the topics, if there was going to be a, welcome to Meteor book right now, it's a thicker book, it's just harder. So
I agree with that. I would agree with that. But I do think, so to like answer the original question Ben asked and started all this with, I would still probably recommend Meteor. Like my hesitation with Feathers is like what, Abby was talking about, right? Like I need to go figure out Webpack and I need to go figure out like how to make sure my build tool is running the right way and all that kind of stuff. And like that gives me pause. Like I realize at the end of the day, it might only be a weekend of work, but I'm not sure I want to spend that weekend up front, like getting all that ready and getting it done correctly. And, it is the JavaScript fatigue problem. Like there's too many choices. Like do I punt on Webpack and go with Steel.js or something like that? Like, I don't know. But with Meteor, I deal with the slower build times and just, it works.
There's that Webpack joke. It's like, the Webpack joke is like, oh, gonna start a new project today. Spend 12 hours on Webpack. I'm not gonna do the project anymore.
I got preprocessors working though.
But project, So there's definitely some benefits there.
Yeah, to be clear, I actually recommended Meteor to a new person today. So absolutely. But I do have my eyes open for what's next. Maybe if someone could figure out the Sinatra of Meteor, like I might be interested in that.
Yeah. I don't know. I still think. Like for all the rallying I do against having eager loading still in there and having to use an imports folder, I think that's still like an eye on the new user and deciding like they can still do things the old way and write code that still functions in a way that's easy, that they don't have to go grok like ES6 syntax necessarily.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if Meteor was not in 1.3, and knowing what I know now, I would not recommend it to a beginner because, let me tell you, this is why. Because if you're a junior person, your job is to get the next job, right? Your job is to get the next position that you really want. Maybe you're working at some like stupid agency. Just kidding.
I'm not working there anymore.
Not anymore, right? I'm just kidding. Paul, don't hate me. Maybe you're working at some really crappy job and you're using Meteor and like right off the bat, like the standards of like how people code is completely different than maybe the next job you're gonna get, right? And I think like if you're a junior person and you're trying to get to the next level, you kind of have to go with what the industry is doing, using tools, all that stuff. Like if you're still writing code with globals, and you go to your interview and someone asks you like, oh yeah, what kind of module systems you guys use, or how'd you guys pack up all your stuff? The junior person is going to be like, oh, don't you mean just putting a global variable equals an object and putting everything on that and exporting it from a package.js file that doesn't exist anywhere else but Meteor? Like these are the things that I would be hesitant to tell a junior person to go fall in love with and do, right? But 1.3, you don't have to do that. You would just do it normally.
So your argument was, so I'm confused. So you're saying you wouldn't recommend 1.3. Before you said 1.3 or before, or 1.2 and lower you would recommend.
But now this is for a beginner, right? I'm talking about, for what I just said right now, it's kind of, of course, it's kind of confusing.
I would say Meteor is perfect.
That's what you would say.
Because 1.3 is still the 1.2. And so a beginner would be able to jump in with Blaze.
Yeah.
With globals, don't have to deal with modules, anything. In fact,
and be ridiculed.
I would bet Discover Meteor still works with 1.3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
right.
There you go. So there's for beginners. Okay, now the question of saying, is Meteor too complicated, too thick, or whatnot? Now what Abby said before is like, it's not so much Meteor that's thicker, it's JavaScript that is thicker, and you got to know this stuff anyway to get a job. So do it. And it's not like, don't blame the fatigue on Meteor. In fact, Meteor is going to provide an environment that's a lot more friendly for you to learn those.
Yeah, that's true.
Things. So it's like the mix, and I still think 1.3 is even more relevant.
Start recommending it, Abby.
Yeah. All right.
And now I'm leaving. I'm dropping the mic.
If I'm a junior dev and I
community, you two guys, I don't know if I kind of handle.
No, it's because like I classify beginner different than junior developer for some reason. Like for me, beginner was when I was a beginner. I didn't have a programming job. I was online on Reddit and Hacker News, like typing stuff into my terminal, and like I was a beginner. When I was a junior developer, I realized my career. This is what I wanted my career to be. So how do I be the best at this? So
I remember those two feelings.
Yeah, it's like the different standpoints. And
totally.
Looking at those different standpoints and giving the Meteor to both of them in the current condition, a little different for each.
It is a little different. And I think it would be up to the person that's recommending it to frame it in the way, knowing who you're talking
Exactly, yeah.
But it's cool that Meteor can serve both of them and in a very different way.
Yeah, that's cool. That is cool.
I would just say junior dev, if he's using Meteor now, and you're going to an interview, you just say, I've been working on React, and that's all you got to say. And don't mention Meteor, just talk about React, and you'll be good.
Well, and apparently React devs get paid like 10x the rest of the industry. I don't know.
Yeah.
They do.
10x, but
no,
in Chicago they do.
But they are at the top of the front end framework average income there.
Before I got my job, the new job that I'm moving to, there was a large company, like a large international, very popular company, that was going to move everything over to Meteor, and their headquarters in Chicago, their developer team's headquarters there. The salary was insane. It was just insane, and it was all Meteor. So I would say that Meteor's salary is like above React.
No. I would disagree.
Oh, yes. And then knowing Josh's hourly rate as well, I would say it's much higher than React.
Yeah, but I don't get enough work at that rate. That's the problem. Funny guy.
Shouldn't have told him your rate, Josh.
Shouldn't have. He said he had work for me. I told him.
Oh, no.
Weaseled it out of me.
Fell into that hole.
No, actually, I had a conversation about the rate today, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "It's not that high. Like everybody else that's at my level is probably going to be charging around that, and they're pretty booked up." So
Yeah. Like it's kind of, we all talk who's in the community. We know everyone's hourly rate and whatnot, and then we also hire contract Meteor developers too at OK Grow. And there are these boxes for beginner, mid, and then senior, and everyone like pretty much falls in the box. And like Josh, your rate is very competitive in the box that you fall in, like without a doubt. Like there's other developers out there that we've hired too, and they're in the same price range.
Yeah. If someone came to me, it's funny. Like I had this conversation today about my rate, and they're like, "Well, like, what would a good senior person be?" And I was like, "I wouldn't pay a senior person under $80 an hour. Like, I would question what they were doing if they gave you a rate lower than that, or how much experience they actually have."
Most definitely, that is not a senior guy as a contractor.
Yep.
Maybe like a side gig for a senior guy.
Side gig.
If you get him on a good day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're at the end of our hour here. It has been
100.
fun. Yeah, we should have gone for 100 minutes, maybe. No.
Oh, yeah.
Abby's girlfriend would kill him.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it has been a real pleasure to do 100 shows with all of you gentlemen, and I thank you for that. So.
Yes, 100 more.
Ooh, yes.
Hopefully.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Josh, for this platform.
It's been great.
Yes, and your friendship and your guidance. It has been an amazing.
And you know what? I'm gonna put myself under the gun too. I hope maybe tomorrow or sometime this week I'm gonna announce Crater Mobile Conf as well, which is gonna be July 13th to the 15th, and I've got some good speakers lined up. A lot of React Native stuff going on, a little bit of Cordova stuff, so it's gonna be super interesting. Some Meteor stuff as well.
Dude, I have a mobile talk if you want some.
Huh?
You just got your
That's
first
the thing to say about mobile.
Dude, and Avi is a very entertaining talker, so he
Indeed.
killed it at the last one. You should have like a round table with like expert Cordova person, expert React Native, and have them go at it. That'd be
Well,
interesting.
so James, I think you guys are gonna meet him later. Well, you guys met him Ben met him at Space Camp. James Baxley, he works at the New Spring Church.
I contributed on Apollo with that guy.
Yeah. But he's going to give a talk on going from Cordova to React Native and like using Meteor as the backend. So
Nice.
that'll
That'd be
be
cool.
super interesting.
That guy's a smart guy. So
Yeah.
cool.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Tune
See
in
ya.
next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
This video has been a Space Dojo production. You can click the Learn More button to find out more about us at spacedojo.com. Or you can click the subscribe button to get notified about new videos we put out each week. Thanks for watching.